Today, I'm going to answer some questions about what myofunctional therapy does for people. I've already answered what it is in previous videos, but in a nutshell, it is working with the muscles of the mouth and face. That is this entire area here, all throughout the inside, even into the throat. And that is because these muscles all interconnect through the entire skull, and they also on the inside connect with each other up until the base of the skull. So if there's a muscle group that is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, other muscles are going to try to help or compensate. And that can lead to dysfunction, and that can lead to strain, and those two things can lead to pain. So I've had a few patients come in who have had migraines, and they've taken medication for it. They've tried taking different kinds of supplements, making sure that they're getting in lots of water, making sure that they're getting good sleep, all that kind of stuff. And they consistently get migraines, and they just have to keep taking medication for it because there's nothing else that they seem to be able to do. So they came into my office having learned about how muscle strain can cause pain, and we took a look at their mouth. And what I noticed right off the bat was that 3 of these women had tongue ties. Now that is a little attachment underneath the tongue that is too short. Everyone has this attachment if they have a tongue and they have a jaw, right? But if it is too short or it is too tight and it does not allow the tongue to do what it needs to do, then the tongue is going to fight against the other muscles in the mouth in order to try to do what it's supposed to do. And that's going to lead to a lot of strain. That's also going to lead to fatigue of those muscles, and then other muscles are going to need to compensate. Now, it was really interesting because all 3 women were getting them in different places. I had one that was getting hers kind of in this jaw area, and then it would lead up here. She could kind of feel that it was traveling, but sometimes it just felt like it was 2 different places, or it was just one or the other. And she would clench her teeth a lot. When at night she would clench, and then she would wake up and she would just have this horrible migraine over her eyebrows, and she was just miserable with it. The second woman, she was getting headaches and migraines right up through here. And it was really kind of interesting that she could massage this area here and she would get some relief. Sometimes she would get complete relief for a little while, and then the headache would start to come back. And then at least once a week, she was getting a full-on migraine where she just had to like go in her room and shut off the lights and be away from any and all stimulation. But she was noticing that it had something to do with muscle because she could massage it a little bit and it would get some relief, at least briefly. Now, the third woman, let's see. The third woman, she was getting migraines up and over her head. So instead of it triggering at the jaw joint and coming through here, she was getting them up and over her head, and they were ending up in her eye. It really felt like they were in her eye and not just above her eye. And as a myofunctional therapist, I know that muscles are all interconnected when it comes to the skull. It's quite different from other skeletal muscles where you've got an origin and an insertion. You know, you've got your muscle that makes your arm open and close here, and you've got muscles like that all over your skeleton. But in the skull, muscles are interconnected, similar to muscles in the heart. Muscles in the heart don't have bones to hold on to, and so they all contract against each other and with each other, creating a system that works without bone. And the muscles in the skull do have bones that they are attached to, but a lot of the muscles are attached to each other, which is why if someone is having strain here, they might be feeling the pain here, or even back here. And so having studied all of this stuff, we took a look, and they were just sick of these migraines. These poor women, they had been dealing with them for years and getting massages and getting chiropractic work and going to physical therapy and all of this different stuff, and they just couldn't figure out what was going on. One other thing that I noticed in all 3 of these women is that they each had a tongue tie. Now, a tongue tie is where the ligament underneath the tongue, this is called a frenum, when it's too short or too tight and doesn't allow the tongue to do everything it needs to do. I thought maybe there's a possibility that that ligament is holding the tongue down, and the tongue itself has 16 muscles, and those muscles then interconnect with bone and muscle along the rest of the jaw and even into the back of the skull, the base of the skull. And so when we're looking at all of these muscles, if the tongue cannot do everything that it's supposed to do and it's not supporting the jaw from the inside, and it's supposed to handle quite a bit of pressure from the inside, but if it just can't, and it's not doing a very good job, and maybe it's, let's see, then what we can do is start doing exercises to strengthen the tongue, and then we can get the tongue tie released. And if a person has strengthened their tongue so that they can support their jaws and gets that tongue tie released, and then works on stretching it so that it grows back longer or less thick, then that person can get such relief. And all three women did. All three women have not seen a migraine since. And it's been so cool. I even had one of them come back to me and she's like, oh my goodness, it's been like 3 weeks and I haven't had a migraine. And then like 3 months later, it's been like 3 months and I haven't had a migraine. She was like, I keep waiting for it to come back, for this to be wrong. And I haven't had a migraine yet, which is so awesome. I was so excited. Yay. But it makes sense that all of these muscles, they're interconnected. And so if one muscle group can't do what it's supposed to do, and that's causing strain as it's fighting against other things, then we're going to have a problem. So it was really, truly exciting to see all of these women see success and get rid of their migraines. It was kind of interesting because they each kind of asked, well, what if I have friends who have migraines? Like how would they know that this could help versus something else? Because other things can trigger migraines, right? It's not just muscle strain. Well, something that you can do to kind of check is to see if you can do basic, simple things with your tongue, such as tighten your tongue and point it forward for 10 seconds without moving. If you cannot hold your tongue in that shape for that time, with that amount of stillness, it means that you don't have very much control over the muscles that are holding your tongue like that. This is the transverse and the genioglossus, as well as some support from others. And that tells me that you're lacking some strength there, which means that it's not supporting your jaws the way you ought to. And so there's a sign that maybe what's going on is the tongue muscles are not supporting the rest of the head instead of some other muscle group that might not be supporting the rest of the head, right? So that's one thing that you can check for. See if you can do that. Again, holding your tongue real still and real pointed and real straight, but you are not supposed to hold your tongue out real far. So I'm not doing this. Holding my tongue out as far as I can. I'm holding my tongue out just a little bit so it's comfortable. And I'm just pointing it straight ahead. Not flat like this, not allowing it to curve down, not allowing it to curve up, but just straight ahead. And I'm holding it there pretty still for 10 seconds. It's not moving up on and down. It's not kind of waving in the wind. It's not going wide and going into that point and going wide and going into that point. It is just straight ahead. And those muscles are all supporting each other, allowing me to do that and allowing me to do that for 10 consecutive seconds. So give it a try. And if you can't do it, then it might be something to work on, as well as several other exercises. That wouldn't be the only exercise that I would give, but it's a really good indication to me as to whether or not those muscles are working together and whether or not they're strong enough to support your mouth for even 10 full seconds. I've had a number of people who have had jaw strain that they got rid of with just a few easy exercises. And so on my app, there's actually a few exercises that are available to anyone who downloads the app. The rest of the exercises are not available until you're working with me, because I do need to be able to see what you're doing. Quite a few people think that they are doing what I am doing as I am demonstrating it. And in fact, they are using all sorts of different muscles to compensate, and they're not realizing it. And so they're not getting the results that they want. And so I do give a few basic, simple stretches that don't really need to be monitored by me in order to help get you some relief. Hope this helps.